Okay, what's up everybody? So I've got a really ghetto, really lazy recipe to share with you today. In fact, calling it a recipe would probably be fairly generous. It's almost time for dinner time and I have not thought up what to make for dinner yet. And so I was digging through the freezer and I found a couple of cuts of meat that we bought a long time ago that we probably need to use up before it spoils. And so I figured I'd just throw them all in an Instant Pot and see what came out at the other end. And I figured while I was experimenting with our new toy, I might as well record it. So that's what this is. Okay, so this is what we're gonna be cooking. Here we've got some really beefy beef short ribs. This is pasture raised beef. At the time that we bought this, we actually already had short ribs in the freezer, but I just couldn't pass it up. Look how much beef there is on that bone. Also in the freezer, I found some baby back ribs. I honestly have no idea when we bought this, so it's probably time to cook it. Now, a couple of things that are gonna make this challenge super interesting. Number one, I don't have time to season these things two different ways. I'm just gonna throw them both in a pot, season them the same way, and hope that what comes out the other side is edible. I'm aware that beef and pork have different flavor profiles, so we'll see how that goes. Number two, the baby back ribs are still kind of frozen, so they're probably gonna cook at a different time. Normally you do baby back ribs for only about 30 minutes in an Instant Pot. I think you'd have to do beef ribs just for a little bit longer. So I'm hoping that it averages out somewhere in there. Okay, so I've seasoned both batches of ribs with just a little bit of salt and pepper. The next step is I'm gonna go ahead and sear the beef ribs using my trusty cast iron skillet. That sear is gonna lock in all the juices and all the flavors and really help to develop the flavor before I throw it in the Instant Pot. I really hope I don't screw this up. So as you can see, getting everything in the pot was a little bit of a challenge. It was kind of like a game of meat Tetris. So now I'm gonna throw a little bit of liquid into the Instant Pot just to get things started. So I decided to go with some red wine because it's what we had left over in the fridge. Also, I've got some leftover bone broth from the first time that I used the Instant Pot. So I figured this would be a good time for them to get reacquainted. All right, so the Instant Pot started beeping at me, which I think means that it's done. So now it's time to crack open the lid and see if I ruined dinner. I can't decide if that looks really delicious or really disgusting. So the ribs are out of the Instant Pot and they are fall off the bone soft. In fact, they're so soft that the bones are falling off the meat. They do look a little bit moist after being in the Instant Pot for a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick them in the broiler just for a few minutes, see if I can dry them out a little bit and get a little bit of a crust on the outside, and then we're gonna eat it. All right, so the ribs are out of the broiler. They look really nice and crispy on the outside and succulent on the inside. I'm gonna go ahead and give one of these beef ribs a taste. That beef is incredible. It held the seasoning amazingly well. If I were to cook this traditionally, it would take me about 3 hours of slow braising to get it soft enough to eat, but just an hour in the Instant Pot seemed to do the trick. I don't know that there's really a bad way to cook beef ribs. I still prefer cooking it in my trusty Le Creuset cast iron Dutch oven, but if I'm strapped for time, this is probably gonna be the go-to way to do it. As you can see, the pork ribs don't even require a knife to pull off the bone. They just kind of disintegrate. Let me taste it to see whether or not that's a good thing. Similar story here, not quite as juicy as the beef ribs, but then again, they don't have as much fat on them as the beef ribs do, but still really tender, really, really soft. If you were to couple these with a really nice keto barbecue sauce, these would be money. All right, so that's it for today's experiment. As it turns out, these ribs are totally 100% edible. So I'm gonna go gather the family and we're gonna lay into these.
Hey guys, you ready to eat?
Did you just say
Hey, barbecue! So good.
Yeah? Is it cuckoo crazy?
Crazy! I'm a keto meat eater. That's why I'm called carnivore sometimes.